Born in Cleveland, raised a hillbilly. What's your story? Welcome to the Hillbilly Justice on the School Bus podcast. Here's your host, Sarah Blossom Ware.
Welcome to the first ever Hillbilly Justice on the School Bus podcast. I'm Sarah Blossom Ware. I wrote a book called Hillbilly Justice on the School Bus as a fun way to document the way I grew up in the Ozark foothills of northwest Arkansas. Interestingly, my book has become much more than that. Although I've yet to have a student tell me I grew up as a hillbilly too, I have heard that's how I grew up in Poland or India or South Korea. For my entire adult life, I've been driven to initiate and promote diversity initiatives, and now my book is serving to do just that. The purpose of this podcast is to spark discussions in the student body and general public regarding diversity and acceptance, and to break stereotypes. That being said, the first stereotype that I would like to break is that all people in the South live like I did. It's just not true. All people in the South do not live the way I lived. All people in Arkansas do not live like I did, or in Fayetteville, or even in Prairie Grove, where I went to school kindergarten through 12th grade. The majority of my stories take place in Cove Creek community, which is 7 miles south of Prairie Grove and 17 miles south of Fayetteville, Arkansas. So I lived in a sub culture in the South. In each podcast, I will read a chapter from my book and then host a more general discussion on topics that are loosely related to the chapter. Discussion panel members are made up of college students and other colorful, upstanding members of the community. The chapter I will now read is called Cowboy Boots. My parents were hippies. My parents are hippies. My middle name is Blossom. For my mother's 50th birthday, she got a navel piercing. My father is now 63 years old and sports a ponytail. As a teenager, I rebelled by becoming conservative. I believe that everything in my life has been divinely ordered, despite the fact that most things in my life have seemed completely random. I ended up living in the Netherlands and receiving my doctorate degree because of a seemingly random blanket email. And I grew up in the Ozark foothills of northwest Arkansas because of a seemingly random choice by my parents when I was 3 years old. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1974, and my brother George was born a little over a year later. We lived right in downtown Cleveland on East 33rd Street. We had running water and a phone and electricity and close access to grocery stores and all sorts of other amenities provided by a big city. This all changed in the spring of 1977. My parents were avid hikers and campers. Their most recent excursion was in the mountains of Pennsylvania, and they were searching for their next vacation destination. It just so happened that my dad's brother, Uncle Rich, had a friend who traveled throughout the U.S. in an old ice cream truck. You may be wondering, as did I, whether his friend actually sold ice cream out of his truck to fund his travels. He did not. The ice cream truck had been demoted merely to an RV status. Well, the ice cream man told Uncle Rich about how much he enjoyed the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas. Based on the recommendation of the ice cream man, Northwest Arkansas became my parents' next vacation destination. I still remember standing behind the glass door at my grandparents' house on East 66th Street, waving goodbye as they left. George and I were the only grandchildren, and the time passed quickly because I loved spending time with Grandma and Grandpa. When my parents returned, my happy eyes met theirs, but then were quickly drawn downward. Feelings of amusement and confusion washed over me as I stared down at 2 new pairs of cowboy boots. Then my parents excitedly dropped the bombshell. We were moving to Arkansas. A chaotic whirlwind of events followed. There were emotional pleas from family members to reconsider. Nearly all of our belongings were sold, and my parents purchased a green International Harvester Travelall, which is a sort of hippie SUV of its day. They loaded the Travelall with whatever belongings would fit, plus the 4 of us and my dog Bonzo. Within 3 weeks' time, we left downtown Cleveland far behind. Okay, so let's introduce the panel members that will be with us for the first 4 podcasts. I've asked each member to come up with a 6-word summary of who they are and then an expanded introduction. For example, I'm Sarah Blossom Ware, and my 6-word summary is born in Cleveland, raised a hillbilly.
Gina Chambers, my 6-word summary is extremely vivid dreams all night long.
I was born in Michigan, but raised in the South, Alabama, Florida, and all over the East Coast, and also spent summers in Hawaii and did some schooling there too. I currently live in Illinois.
I'm Andrea Shaw. My 6-word summary is Island Girl Stuck in the City. All right, I came from Hawaii and I went to Judson in Elgin and met my husband there, and we ended up staying in Elgin, so that's where we are. I am homeschooling our 4 children, and he is currently on the Elgin City Council, and so that's kind of our life in a nutshell.
My name is Kathleen Wojcik. My 6-word summary is pre-physical therapy student and Polish folk dancer. I was born in Wooddale, Illinois, and raised by 2 parents who both came from Poland. I had a very Polish upbringing, went to Polish school, and danced in a Polish folk group. I am currently a pre-physical therapy student. I just graduated from Loyola University in December, and I'm finishing my prerequisites so that I could apply over the summer.
I'm Jaimie Finlayson. My 6-word summary is I'm a fun-loving free spirit. I grew up in Naperville. I was even born at Edwards Hospital. My father has lived in the same house since I was just a baby. My mom's moved around a little bit, but still been in the same general area. She always wanted to keep me very close to my dad. Because they were separated for so long, I've never really been in a typical family. But I do feel like I grew up pretty normal. I was very close to everybody, and being in Naperville, it's a nice area with really nice schools. My family all still lives in the area. My dad's 5 minutes from me. My mom and brother both live in Naperville. I love to get to be around them, and I've always got to spend time with them.
If you're listening in, please leave your 6-word summary in the online comments. Before we dive into the discussion questions for this week, it's time for a segment that I call, So What Have You Been Busy With Lately? So, Gina, what have you been busy with lately?
So since moving to Illinois about 10 years ago, we have had a second child and have begun homeschooling. Right now, I am spending a lot of time running a business that both of my daughters, where they produce products, candles, and organic skincare products. They are now almost 10 and 13 and a half. And besides homeschooling, the business has become awe-consuming for me now. Also, I study in my free time as a hobby natural medicine and anything to do with food and homeopathics, herbs, and other ways to heal non-conventionally.
Again, if you're listening in, please leave a comment online to let us know what you've been busy with lately. Okay, so let's begin our discussion. In my childhood, my grandparents were a big part of my life, and before I moved to Arkansas. So the first question that I have for all of you is, how have your grandparents or other extended family members affected your childhood experiences? How involved have your external family members been in your lives?
So for me, I was raised by parents who were separated and never lived in the same state after, I guess, I was the age 2. So I also had grandparents in other states. There was a time where I lived with a few of them at separate times, but never had, I guess you would say, a really long-term relationship with any of my parents where we were really able to bond deeply, besides me coming in and out of their lives sporadically.
I had grandparents that were semi-involved. They were not involved really in the day-to-day, but they were involved in the big things like Christmas and New Year's and Easter and all the big holidays, and we would get together for various events and have big things, big celebrations. And so pretty much that's what I remember, and probably affected my childhood experience was the big stuff. You know, it would be an exciting experience to go and spend time with the whole family.
Okay. My grandparents are all in Poland, so I actually didn't have hardly any relationship with them. I did have a grand aunt that lives here and a babysitter who I called my babcia, which is the Polish word for grandma. And they kind of took on the role of like grandmas for me. And they had like the same kind of strong Polish roots and that kind of upbringing when they were babysitting me.
My dad's side of the family all lives very close in the area, so since I was born, I've been very close with all of my extended family. My grandparents, when I was younger, used to take care of me when my parents were at work. I was even named after my grandfather, James, which I think is pretty cool. He passed while I was still pretty young. I was like 6 or 7, but me and my grandma still maintain a really good relationship. I remember going to do ceramics with her all summer, and we would just paint and watch Price is Right and go to lunch, and it was tons of fun. And I mean, she's still very close. I see her almost on a weekly basis, so I'm very close with my grandparents.
I'm jealous.
Yes, jealous for sure. Yeah, so my grandmothers are both in Ohio right now, so that's pretty far from Illinois, so I'm also jealous, yeah. Okay, so another question I thought could be interesting, loosely based on the chapter I just read, were a lot of random events in my life have seemed to guide my direction. Pretty much that's how I live life. So I wanted to know, for any of you, was there a seemingly random event in your life that ended up having a huge impact or leading you in a really different direction? How about you, Andrea?
I had a seemingly random event that impacted my life. Our youth pastor left when I was 14, and before that, I would have said forever that I wanted to be in the Air Force and fly a fighter jet. And then after that, I wanted to be a youth pastor. And so that was the event that kind of changed the course of my life then.
Kathleen?
One random event in my life was when my parents bought a trailer up in Wisconsin. So we didn't move there, but we spent a lot of summers there and a lot of weekends there. It affected my life because it's kind of like a different lifestyle out there. It's much slower. Like I said, we lived in a trailer, so like we had less amenities than we had here, and we had more of like the small town feel.
Jaimie?
My event that I feel isn't really that random, but it did have an impact on me. When I was in elementary school, my mom moved, she got remarried and moved out to Big Rock, which is, a little more out in the rural area. It's a big difference than living in Naperville and being in the city. And that completely changed my perspective on just how life is. I went from, having everybody surrounding me, having everything at my disposal, to living in a farmhouse with cornfield next to me and a couple acres of land and 2 neighbors. And then like a year later, we moved back to Naperville, and it was very complicated, and it just changed my whole perspective.
In this chapter, I am talking about also that even though events seemed pretty random to me, and still sometimes do, a lot of times do, I still believe that there's a divine order to my life. So I wanted to kind of discuss that, see what you guys think. Do you think there's some kind of an order to your life, or is life just completely random for sure?
So for me, I was not raised, by my parents. I wasn't raised with any religion or spirituality. I was introduced through some time with one set of grandparents and maybe through friends, I guess. But then as an adult, sort of seeked to make sense of the seemingly random and sporadic way that I was raised. And through that came to Christ. And now I can look back and see that there's a reason why things happen the way they did. For me, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, if I think back to your previous question, what seemed like a random event that changed my mind, was it really the event that changed my mind? I think it was really God that changed my mind and put this calling on my heart for teenagers. And older children. And really, it wasn't a random event. It was, for me, this is what I believe, it was divine order that set me on this path for the rest of my life. I still love to work with youth, and that really is my passion, and I don't think that will ever change. And hopefully, as my kids get older, I can spend more time and devote more time to that calling.
Okay, I would say that I have to agree that I do believe that there is a divine order in life. I think that everything happens for a reason. I don't think that anything really happens by accident. I think every cause and effect happens in order for the way that it should be, and that everyone kind of ends up where they need to be by the end.
Well, I guess I'm kind of on the opposite end of everybody. It's not that
fine.
I necessarily feel that it's random, but I don't think that everything is in an order. I feel that if you do good things are going to happen to you. If you do bad things, make bad decisions, then bad things are going to end up happening to you. You put yourself in a place that you want to be. You're the only one who can make changes happen. If there's a certain place you want to go, then you have to be the one to make it happen. Nobody else is going to make random acts happen for you. And I guess while I have some certain religious beliefs, my beliefs are more towards just do good unto others rather than things are going to happen a specific way. You know, you can't really fight it. So I'm kind of in the middle on that one.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. These are pretty personal questions, so I appreciate all of your honest answers and for being here. So the last question is one that my mom actually texted in, and so I thought, it's a nice one too. Almost everyone has a dream to do something different and special in life. Is there anything you have dreamt of doing but did not do? And describe how you think you might be living if you'd taken that dream path that you had.
So the first thing that comes to my mind is when I was going through school for massage therapy in Hawaii. I was 18, 19, 20 years old, in that range. I had planned a trip to Thailand with a friend, and we got very close to purchasing tickets and moving forward with that. And I actually, I guess I could say, is back to my randomly, seemingly question, maybe this goes back to that since I didn't have an answer, ended up in Vegas on a trip with a friend from Hawaii, and my high school sweetheart was there with his mom for his 21st birthday, and I had kept up in touch with her, and because of that I had a baby a year later and never made it to Thailand.
So how do you think your life maybe would have been different? No babies?
Probably not, at least for a while. I would assume that I would be further along in my career with natural medicine. Yeah, I'm not sure when the babies would come in, but it sort of got flipped a little. I eventually will get there.
Andrea, how about you?
I think that I had dreamed of, probably since making that choice to pursue youth ministry. I had dreamed of becoming a youth pastor. I had dreamed of getting married and having 4 kids. And I've done all those things, and now I'm kind of in search of a new dream. I know that right now youth ministry is very difficult with 4 kids and some health issues, and that's not what I'm doing currently, but I would eventually like to go back to that. But I think that I really want something new to look forward to, something exciting to look forward to. So if you guys have any ideas, pass them on.
Cornrows are still cornrows.
This summer.
Kathleen?
Okay, so one of my dreams is to go on a global brigade, either to Africa or another third world country. I just recently became kind of interested in the health field when I started looking into pre-physical therapy. I think it would be awesome to go to another country like that and see their lifestyle and see how little effort on our part can make such a big difference in their lives. I'm hoping to kind of get involved into a program that does something like this in the next year, because I'm going to have a year off of school, and hopefully we'll achieve that dream by the end of next year.
Jaimie?
Well, I feel like I'm on my dream path as well. I've always wanted to work with animals. That's my dream. I just want to travel the world and take care of animals. I want to go to Australia and go to school And that's what I'm trying to do now. I go to COD, not that COD necessarily does my major, but I'm here trying to work on that and get even closer to what I want to do. And I strive for that constantly.
Right, it is interesting that you guys are still on your
Yeah.
on your path. There's nothing that's kind of blocked you or
Right.
as far as life goes. So yeah, that's great. It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
It's also a good place to be. What's the next new great thing?
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. I enjoyed those answers. Thanks for listening to the Hillbilly Justice on the School Bus podcast. Tune in next week to find out what happens next when George and Sarah and Bonzo roll into Northwest Arkansas in the green hippie SUV. Until then, dream big and have fun.